today deliberate and decide on a range of matters relevant to the work of Council in its communities for the welfare of the people of the Pyrenees Shire. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this ordinary council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. Anyone who is invited to read out a question or make a submission will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of that live stream and recording. The chair and/or the CEO has the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed appropriate, and that may include where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The live stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence for the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the live stream, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum can be maintained, and where possible, a recording of the meeting will be published on the Council's website. Where a quorum cannot be maintained, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved or the meeting postponed to another time and date in accordance with the Council's governance rules. I would now like to acknowledge the people, past and present, of the Wadawurrung, Dja Dja Wurrung, Eastern Maar and Watchabolik tribes whose land forms the Pyrenees Shire. We pay our respect to the customs, traditions and stewardship of the land by the elders and people of these tribes on whose land we meet today. I'll ask for any apologies, but as we're all present, there are none. I will now ask for any notice of disclosure of interest by councillors and/or officers. There being none, we'll move on to confirmation of the previous minutes. So the recommendation here is that the minutes of the statutory meeting of Council held on the 12th of November last year, the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 10th of December 2024 and the closed meeting of Council held 10th of December 2024, as previously circulated to councillors, that to be confirmed. May I ask for someone to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Toll, and someone to second it. Thank you, Councillor Phelan. All those in favour of those minutes, and that has been carried. Now we move on to item number 7, which is any business arising from those minutes. And as there is no business arising, we'll move on to public participation. So public participation comes under the guidelines that are there listed in the meeting minutes. And I will now move on to the 3 questions that we were received by the cut-off time. Our first question is from Jocelyn Campbell of the Beaufort District. And her question is, given the age of all Pyrenees pools and the recent closure of the Beaufort pool, what is the proposed timeline and current progress of Council's strategic plan for the future of all Pyrenees Shire swimming pools? Further, what opportunities will the community be given for input into the development of this plan? And may I hand to you, Mr. Nolan, please, to speak to that.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And thanks, Jocelyn Campbell, for your question. Council commenced a strategic review of the 3 council pools in 2024. The review seeks to understand the current condition and the renewal and maintenance requirements for the various assets within each of the facilities. The process will undertake a needs assessment and investigate long-term options for the best services the community for now and in the future for the community within Council's financial capacity. A very important part of the development of the strategic plan will be to seek input from those that use the pool, as well as the general public. We'll also be seeking expert advice from within the industry. And any key milestones completed, at key milestones completed, we will seek to share that with the community and provide details about how you can have involvement during the course of that process.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. A second question was received from John Hanley of the District Raskar. I would like this, he has 2 questions. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Are you happy for me to read, John? I'll read that out for you. Your first question, Mr. Hanley, was I would like council to consider making all roads in the Shire to allow B doubles and road trains to access them, especially during the harvest season. And could I discuss possible options available? Thank you for that question. Would you like to, thank you, Mr. Gowans. Would you be able to speak to that question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hanley, for your question. Council understands the importance of road assets and access for higher mass vehicles to support the Pyrenees economy and specifically the agricultural sector. Council has responsibility for just over 2,000 kilometres of roads and 150 bridges on those roads on the network. Of the 150 bridges, Council currently has 25 of those bridges that are load limited. This basically means that they can't go beyond a certain mass for each individual bridge, and those load limits are likely to be, I mean, they're available to the industry, but they're soon to be actually posted on each of those bridges, which will make it quite obvious to the community which of the bridges are load limited. Predominantly, the load limits are due to the age of the assets, and that many of these bridges were not designed for higher mass loads. Council has been investing in its road and bridge network over many years, and Council has been upgrading bridges and culverts to achieve higher load limits. As of 2024, Council has pre-approved approximately 240 kilometres of its 2,000 kilometre road network. Other roads can be used by B doubles and on a case-by-case basis through application to the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. However, the bridge structures that are currently load limited are non-negotiable and need to be restricted to the posted agreed load limit to ensure safety. Council will continue to prioritise replacement of load limited bridges that provide the greatest benefit to the transport and agricultural sectors. And as we progress with upgrading bridges, we will in turn make those roads available for the agricultural sector. So Council will continue to look at which ones should be done in what order, because on average, each bridge replacement costs in the order of about $1 million. It depends on a number of factors, but it starts adding up when you try to get larger vehicles on our network over time. But we understand that that's one of the purposes of the network, to help support the industries that the community has here.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. It's a very pertinent question, and one that has been definitely at the forefront of what we're needing to prioritise, especially with our bridge network. So thank you, Mr. Hanley. Mr. Hanley also had another question asking Council to gravel at least 500 metres of Evans Road, Homebush, so I can access my paddocks with trucks and equipment in all seasons. This request has been asked previously, and I don't want to hear that this road is not on your road register. Looking forward to discussing these questions at the meeting, as I will be in attendance. May I ask Mr. Gowans, thank you, to respond to that as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hanley, for your subsequent question. Evans Lane, Homebush is on the Council Road Register as a local access 2 road for approximately 241 metres to service the residents at 18 Evans Lane. Beyond this point, Council acknowledges that there is a natural surface track, an informal track, that Council currently does not have on its road register. There may be a strong case for this to be added to the register as a local access 3 road. The fact that this is not on the road register does not prevent it from being used for access by the general public. A local access 3 road is not inspected and maintained, and is only undertaken, any maintenance is only undertaken at Council's discretion to maintain serviceability. A Council decision is required in order for a road to become part of the road register with its road classification. It would be highly unusual for a local access 3 road to be constructed to an all-weather access road. These are generally restricted to local access 2 or above roads, which generally service residential properties. Council has a limited budget, and a request such as this, if supported, generally would be taking funds away from maintaining higher road classes.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. There will be options for public participation, or would you like to briefly
Is
speak?
Is there a question?
Oh, sorry, is it a further question, Mr. Hanley, on that one? Would you like to come to the microphone just to clarify that?
Stick with the question.
Yes, sorry, only question time at the moment. Yeah, but please ask the question if you'd like to. If
Well,
there's
I haven't
a
got a question, I'm sorry, but in response to that one about the road trains and everything, I think council needs to look at it a little bit differently insofar as I'm a farmer and we get other people to cart our grain and we don't know what truck's going to come. So we need to be able to get them in, like all the municipalities north of us do that. I think council needs to look, the engineering department needs to look at putting speed limits on the bridges. And if it was 60 kilometres an hour, a road train would be prepared to go over that at 60 kilometres an hour instead of doing a 20 kilometre an hour run around. And you've only got to get the police there or Vic Roads there a couple of times to book a couple of them, and they will all soon slow down to that speed. And that way you're going to protect your bridges and do it. And it's not a matter of fixing every bridge in the Shire. You've got to look at other ways of doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. And I think, would you like to respond to that? Or?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Hanley, for your subsequent question. Yeah, look, I think the suggestion about lower speed limits is absolutely in the mix of suggestions. In fact, we have an example of where council put a speed limit on a bridge to extend its life prior to us getting the funding to build that bridge, and that was on the Beaufort-Carnham Road. So speed limitation is absolutely in the mix, but it's not the only factor at play here.
We appreciate that and bringing that up. So
can I speak on the second question now?
We're very strapped for time, but if it's very quick while you're here, Mr. Hanley, I'd like to.
It will be quick. I've been asking for this road to be upgraded for about 10 years, and I fork out about $19,500 every year on rates. And I just think a little bit of return. You all sat around on the Australia Day thing and you listened to Rowan Martin talk about what's fair. And I think sometimes that's got to come back to people that are paying the bulk of the rates in this Shire. I've asked for this road. I did a little bit on the road myself, and I was going to keep the rates out, and I never used some rate money, and council did the wrong thing by me in that. But anyway, that's another story.
We will take that on notice, though, to investigate that further. But thank you, Mr. Hanley, and thank you for your questions tonight. Appreciate that greatly. We'll take that on notice, though, Mr. Gowans, and looking further at those speed limits and those options to assist farmers, because it's vital that we can help you. Our next question we had is from Julie Bartlett, and Ms. Bartlett's from Rathscar again, and she's asking, can council please advise what they are doing to give people access to water standpipes for stock and domestic water, as access seems to have been blocked on the 3 that are located close to Avoca Rathscar area, and when will infrastructure be upgraded? Mr. Gowans, again, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Bartlett, for your question. Council has 2 emergency supply water points in the Avoca Rathscar area. One, which is board number 18, is located approximately 1.8 kilometres northeast of Avoca off Homebush Road. And the other is board number 11, which is located on private property to the south of Bradshaw Swamp Road, about 700 metres west of Homebush Road. Bore number 18 has a solar powered pump and gravity fed from a storage tank, and bore number 11 requires the user to supply fuel and start the diesel pump to draw directly from the bore if the tank is empty. This supply does not have an automated control system. None of these emergency water supply points have water treatment, and water should be considered as non-potable. Bore number 11 has high total dissolved solids and may not be suitable for some stock, particularly land. Both of these water supplies are for emergency purposes and are not provided for purposes other than watering stock. Users need to obtain a permit prior to accessing the supplies. And the bore and tanks at the Avoca Rec Reserve are not owned or managed by PSC currently. Subsequent to this particular question, if the community is looking to seek water from the Avoca Township supply, ultimately that rests with Central Highlands Water, and typically they'll only allow registered water carters to access that supply via metered hydrants. So that's generally not available to the public.
So we might, does that answer the questions, or will we look at a little bit more? We might have to take that on notice too.
Sorry, I'm Jill. Can you please look into it further?
Yeah, thank you,
There's
Jill.
one at Homebush on private property is owned by this man, John. Yeah, so, and
No.
if that's the road needs upgrading for us to have stock water, maybe it should be done.
We'll take that information. We're thankful you brought it to the meeting tonight and report back further on that. Thank you very much, both of you. There have been 2 other questions received that we do have time. They were received after 12, but as we have time, we'll receive those 2 questions. These are from Mr. Trevor Davey. The first question was, when will the monthly schedule for the highly successful and community-liked Cuppa and Chat program be announced? I'll hand over to Mr. Nolan, please, if you'd be able to respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate the question from Mr. Davey, and appreciate how valued the community covers are from various members of the community. At this point in time, there's been no decision made around the setting further dates for community cuppas. Council is considering, as part of its council plan, an engagement plan, a broader engagement plan around how to best engage with the community in the long term. So that is all under consideration with the council at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. A second question Mr. Davey had was, for transparency and community support, the following question impacts the community a lot. Has the councillor for the Landsborough ward taken a full-time position in Melbourne? And if so, what is the impact on the duties of a councillor for the constituents of that ward? May I hand that to you, Mr. Nolan, as well?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And look, I'm happy to respond on behalf of the council on this one and the councillor in question. And yes, Councillor Megan Phelan has been successful in her employment, and of course, employment is necessary for councillors to have, because the allowance that a councillor gets is highly inadequate for someone to sustain a lifestyle. So it is important for councillors to have other employment, and certainly in a small rural council, councillors, it's an important aspect of their livelihood. So yes, Councillor Phelan has, because she's highly sought after with her skills, has managed to secure employment, and that employment does take her out of the Shire and certainly Melbourne-based. However, Councillor Phelan is completely committed to fulfil her role as a councillor, as she committed to on election, and to participate in councillor activities and to represent the interests of the constituents of the Decameron ward and the interest of the whole of the community. So thank you for that question.
As this is of a personal nature, I would Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak to that question as well?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the question, Mr. Davey. I can add that very fortunately, I do have access to flexible working arrangements with this, and for your level of comfort, that I am in Moon Bell more days than I'm not on any given working week. So thankfully, my place of employment has given me that flexibility, which is excellent. But yeah, certainly a big balancing act, but I'm very committed to both roles. And you'll see on the next agenda item the level of engagement I've had across the Decameron ward, and had really great engagements with the community, which I intend to continue doing. But yeah, thanks for the question.
Thank you, that's great.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Phelan, and thank you for all those questions. We've got a short amount of time, but I can open up to any questions from the gallery that would like to do any public questions. Just reminding that we limit it to 2 questions during public submission time, and we are bound by a 30-minute limit. But if there are any, I can take Any more that from the gallery this evening? And thank you for the gallery being here. It's lovely to see such a great gallery.
Just one.
Mr. Swan, sorry, did you have a question? Would you like to, or comment you'd like to make?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not really there.
Oh, no, not at all. Just only if you'd like to take the opportunity.
Yeah, just following up from probably, as you're aware, that the latest development was the first wind farm. Come as a bit of a shock at 7 minutes to 5 on Friday night. So we've gone through due diligence. This is probably more of a statement. Due diligence and truth all the way through this matter. And ever since the last community meetings on so-called community meetings on October 10 and 17, there's been no communication back at all to any of our members. And all of a sudden this is just bang, that's it. It's a bit disappointing, but probably the statement is for the council from now on is to be aware of the procedure that's happening. I hope you're on your A game with this because some of the mistruths that have been told through, well, we don't know what's been told to the Department of Transport and Planning, and unfortunately it's occurred. And we've got, they really stipulate we have no recourse, and they're very strong in that statement on their email. So just the council will have to be aware of the terms and conditions. I know there's 17 pages of them. I'm not across them all, but you'll just have to be, what you say, in communication a lot if there's any questions. Yeah, you need to have your wits about this proponent. I'm sorry, but they haven't been very forthcoming with us. We've been respectful and engaged with them. So it's more of a statement, but I'm just...
No, gosh, and thank you for that, and your community supporting your community and doing it in such a respectful way, and we're here to support your community.
Well, if there's ever any questions that anybody wants to know, please come and talk to us, because there's a lot of information. I'd be going for hours, and some of the data that's been put in our submissions, I don't know how it hasn't been checked or replied to. But just, yeah, it's pretty disappointing. Yeah.
Again, gosh, we'll take that information on notice too, because as you said, we do need to be aware of this, because the whole process, even though there's been a decision made, there's a process that will follow, and we want to make sure that the guidelines are followed, like you said. And,
well, there's 17 pages of conditions, and I'm not across every word of it, but yeah, just have to be.
No, but we definitely hear
aware
that. Yeah, gosh.
of what's happening.
Thank you.
We just haven't had any information. It's just poor.
We can take that on notice too, though, and ask where that communication may be coming from. And from like, oh, sorry, Mr. Nolan will comment on that.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Swan, for
I'm sorry.
Speaking to council tonight. Just for the benefit of those that might be online and for other members of the gallery, Mr. Swan's referring to a planning application that was lodged with the Minister for Planning for a wind farm at Barista. The process enabled submissions to be lodged. Council lodged a submission seeking that a permit not be issued for the wind farm, following engagement with the community and council's assessment of the information that's available. Members of the community made submissions to the minister as well. Those submissions were due in, I think, late October, and this was during the councillor caretaker period. Council and the community were notified in the last couple of days of a decision by the minister to grant a permit with a number of conditions on it. There are contained within those conditions a number of what's called secondary consents, which require plans and documents to be prepared and submitted to the minister's satisfaction. Council will continue to engage with the community where there is a role for council and where that might be beneficial as part of, the future construction and implementation of the permit conditions, and happy to continue to advocate on behalf of the community. But it is important for the community to understand this is a decision of the minister, and council's role is very limited in this instance. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
But certainly from an advocacy point of view, we'll try to be above and over it as much as possible. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, please ask if there's any questions, because I can fit into a lot more details, that's all.
Thank you for that opportunity, very greatly appreciated. Again, thank you for all those questions this evening and those comments and that taken on notice. That now takes us to item number 9, and as Councillor Phelan alluded to, it's been quite a busy time, even though it has been over the holiday period for all councillors. It's really only reflecting the last couple of months, so it has been very busy. I do put forward the recommendation that Council notes this report. May I ask a councillor to move that? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari, and seconded Councillor Wardlaw. I got that right. All those in favour, please, and that is carried. Item number 10 refers to the Assembly of Councillors. That has happened again. We've had a number of meetings in trying to get a number of things underway in the last couple of months to start the year running. So you'll notice that information on those meetings there. Again, I have a recommendation to note this report. May I have a councillor move that? Thank you, Councillor Phelan. Councillor Toll seconded. All those in favour? And that is also carried. Now we move on to the items of decision. Our first item is 11.1.1, and that's an application for funding in regards to the Active Transport Fund. And I will ask Mr. Nolan, please, to speak to this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a lot of detail in the report on this one. I'll just speak to the critical parts. This is an application that we're seeking support from Council for, that has been lodged with the Commonwealth Government's Active Transport Fund, and it's for the construction of footpaths along streets within the central area of Beaufort, including Gregory Street, Sturt Street, Speake Street and Burke Street, as outlined in the map that's attached to the report. Walkability is a really important priority for the Pyrenees community, and we've heard that loud and clear through previous community engagement. It's also an important part of our Healthy and Well plan and keeping people physically active. So the application was for a project totalling $625,000, seeking $384,000, with a council contribution of $241,000. Now, the council contribution comprises project management of $12,000, to $151,000, which is part of the Gregory Street component. Council is actually seeking funding from the Victorian government for that $151,000, and $75,000 is proposed to be committed under the Burke Street project. So, of course, when we submit applications for funding, one of the limiting factors is Council's ability to come up with matching funding. It's always a challenge for a small rural council. So where there's an opportunity to leverage state funding to secure Commonwealth funding, or other sorts of funding to get Commonwealth funding, that's what we do. And in this case, we're confident that the Victorian government under the State Local Roads project will come good with $151,000. And we have $75,000 secured for the Burke Street project. So a large portion of the Council's co-contribution for this grant application has got a strong possibility of being secured from other government. So this is an application to the Commonwealth, and councillors, I won't sort of speak to anything further there. The information is provided, and I seek that Council endorses the application for funding to the Commonwealth Government's Active Transport Fund, and that Council continues to seek external funding opportunities to deliver pedestrian and cycle infrastructure across the Pyrenees Shire.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. May I ask for a councillor to firstly move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Phelan, seconded Councillor Ferrari. All those in favour of that recommendation as it stands? Carried. Now, I'll open it. Would you like to speak to that, councillor Gill? No? So councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to support this application. Throughout the year, you get asked numerous times about funding and footpaths, and it goes to not just neatening the town, but the safety and people with mobility issues. So it's a common question about footpaths. So I welcome any opportunity we can get some funding to progress that network. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to that? I'm sorry, I jumped the gun before. So, I mean, it is, yeah, gosh, such a great opportunity to use both those elements of funding to be able to support that. I'll just check everyone is in favour of that one again to move that, and that's carried. Thank you very much.
2 ticks for that one.
2 ticks for that one, sorry. We're having a busy night. Now we're up to item 11.1.2, and that's the economic development update. Again, sorry, Mr. Nolan, would you please speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a lot of information in this report. We provide this report to councillors quarterly to get an understanding of the implementation of council's economic development strategy, which is all aimed at growing the local economy, growing jobs and growing opportunities for growth. Included within this report is some comments about some key projects, the first of which is the Southern Wimmera North East Pyrenees Water Supply Project, which we presented in detail late in 2024 to council. I can report that the funding that council sought and received for this project has delivered the outcomes that it was required to deliver, in that it provided a feasibility study and it's provided a business case that demonstrates that there's a very strong case for this project to be funded and to provide improved economic opportunities for the northern part of the Pyrenees, as well as parts of the Northern Grampian Shire and Central Goldfields Shire. So it's one that council has fully supported, and we're very keen to move forward with the advocacy for this project, now seeking commitments from both Commonwealth state funding for capital upgrades to enable this project to happen. That advocacy has already commenced, and it remains a priority project for council. The Beaufort Linear Master Plan has been completed, and we're continuing to seek funding for the implementation of that. The Beaufort Lake Caravan Park development, we're pretty excited to be expecting the first of the new cabins to be located into the caravan park over the next month. So that'll be a major development, a step forward for the caravan park. Again, this is a $4 million project. Stage 1 is a $1 million project, which includes the implementation of a number of cabins. So there's still a lot more work to be done to secure further funding there. The shop facade program is a program which has benefited a number of businesses to be able to improve the facades of their shops. And so there's a report there around the outcomes of that. Council's digital connectivity, we received a detailed report around digital connectivity, and it remains a really important aspect of council's advocacy, because we're continuing to hear issues within the community about poor connectivity and the impact that has on business and on emergency services and attracting visitation to the region. We do encourage any members of the community that have specific sites that they are concerned about to be able to register their experience on the Commonwealth register for the Mobile Black Spot Funding Program. Events are a really important way of generating life in the community and providing economic benefit. There's a report there about numerous events that have been held recently. I just make mention of the Beaufort by Twilight event. This was a council-funded event and had really good support from the business community in Beaufort, and it was quite a successful event. Obviously, continuing to build on these events for future creates an opportunity to continue to grow the business community in Beaufort. There are a number of sort of activities that actually help to support the business sector. There's a workshop that was held recently, which was a pasture recovery workshop in Raglan, and social media and content marketing workshop is being held in Beaufort. That's coming up. So we'll continue to support businesses in that way. Tourism is a major part of our economy. We are a member of Tourism Midwest Victoria, all of which is about trying to increase the visitor economy. And there are a number of sort of statistics there about how that is grown. I won't go into the details about that. There are a number of tourism campaigns, and currently the Unplug and Unwind Spring marketing campaign, that was quite a successful one. We continue to build on opportunities for campaigns to market. Pyrenees is a great place to come and visit, spend your money, stay a little longer, and spend some more money. And grow the visitor economy, because there's a considerable amount to see and do in the Pyrenees. And obviously the continuing to open up the tracks in the fire affected state parks is an important part of council's advocacy. We're pleased to see that there's continued commitment by the Victorian government to do that. Councillors, I'll leave you read the rest, and there is a recommendation there that council notes this report. The council continues to support business and grow the economy through the activities contained in this report and the implementations of council's economic development strategy. And the council continues to work with key stakeholders to advocate for funding for the Southern Wimmera and North East Pyrenees water supply and for improved digital connectivity across the Shire.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. A lot in that report. But may I ask for a councillor who's happy to move that whole report as it is? Councillor Phelan, and seconded Councillor Wardlaw. So Councillor Phelan, I'll hand to you. Would you like to speak to some elements of that?
Thank you. A great report and a lot happening there. Thank you, Jim. And just really wanted to say how critical two particular areas are for the north of the Shire, and that being water, and what an absolute game changer that water pipe would be. I've had communities in Barclay, Redbank, Moonabel obviously speak about the importance of getting water into their townships, that, you know, whether people are in farming, whether they're in the wineries or just in the small townships. It's a game changer. And of course, we know that in Victoria, water has always preceded development historically in Victoria. So if we want development, we need water. And the other really critical thing is, of course, digital connectivity. And I have raised on a number of occasions, even though we have a tower in Moonabel, it doesn't reach very far. And and Lexton, let's not even go there. So yeah, the more we can do to improve connectivity, support businesses, support people actually engaging in the economy, the better. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Phelan. Councillor Wardlaw, would you like to speak to anything? It's been well said.
It's exactly what I would have said. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Thomas?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd just like to back up Councillor Phelan there. The phone coverage is probably number one in the area. At home at the moment, 3G's gone. Our phones just go blank to SOS. Got nothing, to turn the phone off, reset it and everything. We've got to advocate strongly for that. You know, in case of emergency, two fairly serious bushfires in the Lexton area alone recently. The other one's the bore issue. Julie, I think we mentioned in a meeting recently there's 26% of the council bores not working. We've got to get them fixed. You know, it's coming into a dry period, and that's got to be a priority because you need water, simple as that. So
yeah, well said,
Councillor
Tolls, especially in regards to that water access, very important.
Councillor, I'm not allowed to cut in, but can I just say we've been chasing this pipeline for 6 years now, and I know governments work very slow, but you need to lift your game a little bit on the water side of things. There are farmers that have got less water now than they've had for a long time in the dams.
Yeah, gosh.
Water is very important.
Yes.
And I know phones are, but I mean, if you haven't got water, livestock die.
Yeah, gosh, and we're not meant to, but that's very pertinent. So I'm glad you said that. It is really important. And it's funny, just last week speaking on the radio to Steve Martin, talking about this new project or element of a project, because it has been a long-standing issue, as you know, as a farmer, and I know as a farmer, but particularly for those that rely on that need that water, so they're not having to destock and then restock, and it's just so pertinent. So it is really heartening, and politicians are hearing us. They're knowing now, because they know if we can't provide that produce, they're not going to get that produce. But we still, that advocacy is still very much here. That's important that we're here and doing that. So thank you for that comment. Oh yes, sorry. Yes, please,
on that,
Councillor.
thank you for that comment. Thank you. As you would be well aware, I'm from a farming family myself, and on that note, for the last 4 months, we've been carting water from Denali. Denali has a place that we can get our tanker filled, and that's just for stock. Like, we've been doing that for the last 4 months as it is, and I agree 100%. It is really disheartening that we aren't able to source that in our own shire. But just rest assured that we are working towards whatever solution we can come up with, and hopefully this pipeline does come through. But I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, and also, yeah, parameters too, we may need to be looking at more, and that feedback to be able to make that pipeline project as effective as possible is really important as well. So thank you all for contributing to that. It's a huge project, but one we're super keen, and we need to loudly and clearly let all sides of politics know just how important that is, which I think is coming through, and the more we hear about it, and Mr. Nolan, thank you for the work that's already gone into that and advocacy, that we continue doing that. The other one I was going to just reiterate to again, with the digital connectivity, please encourage people to log on and log those black spots and yourself. So it really takes that, we need that information to be able to get people to hear, to get those politicians to hear when we need to upgrade those towers or update or the technology to be able to reach all areas across the Shire. So that website link is in the meeting minutes there, but if you even need to just ring through and log that through council, if you prefer not to, or not incredibly tech savvy, please just ring in and ask someone to be able to help you with that as well. The only, on another positive note, just pulling out one of those events as an example, both at by Twilight, it was a fantastic event, and I think businesses are really loving it, and I know there's other events happening as well, and having attended those events over the past year, it's really fantastic. So thank you to all those community people that get on board, the businesses that get on board, and thank you to those council people who are supporting that, helping that happen. And finally, I will just plug again, Mr. Nolan did note that social media and content marketing workshop. Again, this is an area where businesses, you have to be a part of. So if you can get booking there, you can book in through the council offices. That's on the 4th of March, so coming up in a couple of weeks. Would be fabulous to jump on that, not only to learn about doing it, but perhaps share ideas with other business people and all that. So I'd strongly encourage people to get involved in that as well. But if there are no further comments on that, I will now put that to the vote. Thank you for all that contributions this evening. All those in favour, and that's very much carried. Thank you for that, Mr. Nolan. That brings us to item 11.2.1, and that's our GAT seal program, rather. So, Mr. Downs, would you mind speaking to our GAT seal program?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the purpose of this report is for council to consider possible locations for this financial year's dust suppression program, which is delivered via the use of GAT seal treatments. A GAT seal is a graded aggregate total treatment sealing, which serves as the primary treatment method used in council's dust suppression program. It effectively mitigates dust and ensures the long-term durability of an unsealed road, but it has the added benefit of converting the gravel road to a sealed road. There are limitations, and some of those limitations are that it's better in lighter vehicle type scenarios, and typically has been done in lower speed environments because of the particular way the GAT seal works. But what happens after the GAT seal treatment a number of years down the track, about 5 to 7 years down the track, it would then go on council's sealing program. So it provides a strong enough base for a seal to go straight on top. Council's allocated $50,000 for the dust suppression program this year, and each treatment costs between $12 to $13 per square metre. So to achieve optimal cost effectiveness, it's essential to optimise travel distances between project locations as contractors apply a mobilisation cost. While the use of the GAT sealing treatment offers the benefits, I've just highlighted some of those limitations there. Council officers propose that the following locations contained in the report should be considered for this year's program. And this year, we've included some areas that we haven't used GAT seals previously, and they include some streets in Moonambell, a collector road between Redbank and Barclay, which we've had some dust suppression issues on at Redbank. Kelly's Lane, the amphitheatre, which we've had an ongoing issue with dust for residents there. However, fully understand that council may have other priorities, and there was a long list provided as an attachment to this report that could be considered. And there's actually a couple of alternatives listed in the report, including Gardeners Lane, Snake Valley, and Hall Street, Walborough, which is now getting a lot more use. Obviously has access to the cemetery, but now has also access to a firefighting tank. So, a couple of really good projects, and if council weren't going to substitute them in this year's project, they would probably form the start of next year's program. The use of GAT seal treatment in council dust suppression program provides a long-term solution for dust suppression with the added benefit of converting unsealed roads to sealed roads. Therefore, it's the officer recommendation to support the roads listed in the recommendation there.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. May I ask for an officer to move a motion on that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Toll. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Phelan. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Council, I had a lady in Lexington saying how fantastic the roads you've done there is, and made a hell of a difference to the community. And then she was sitting there having a cup of tea with the lady in Gladstone Street, and she stuck her hand up and said, look, is there any chance of getting that done? Because she can't go outside in this sort of weather because she suffers from asthma and pollen from the dust. So if you could include that in your wish list, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. Councillor Phelan, to Councillor Woodall.
Yeah, the GAT seal program as a postie on a motorbike, I have to say it's amazing the difference it makes. Yeah, there's been a couple of roads done. One you didn't put down was Orme Street, Avoca. That was brilliant. Just wondering if on your list you could consider continuing Orme Street and looking into Rutherford Street, the end of that goes down to the Shire depot. I think we'd be nearly done in Avoca if we got to that point. But yeah, thank you.
Great local knowledge there. Councillor.
Actually, thank you. I wasn't wanting to be greedy because I've seen Moonambell's already got so many places listed, but given that people are putting forward a bit of a wish list as well, it would be good to consider I don't know the name of the road, which is bad. I've travelled it many times, the one up to Biggie Villa Winery. Yep. So there might be a lot of residents, but it's certainly quite a bit of traffic travelling up to the winery. Absolutely. And a lot of dust up there. If not this year, next year maybe.
Yeah.
Can we put on an extra one?
Actually, do email. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Ferrari, would you like to, but do email, please email through.
Evans line
no, you're right. And I think there are many more. But this is great. This is what we're about. We really want to hear where it needs to happen. And I know even, Gardeners Lane, I know from my area, is really important. But I think it's great that Mr. Gowans, you're noting these ones down too for next year. But I do urge residents, this is great, could it, or even better still, use our CARS system, because then it goes on record. And even if you want to put in that, I believe a GAT seal would be really good, it would be a useful thing. They're documented and ready to go. And that gives us an option to be able to prioritise that when there are so many needing in this area. So I do thank all the effort that's gone into doing this, and I think it's very pertinent that the areas that are going to be looked at are, as we know, highly used areas and used by many people. But we do look forward to continuing that system later on. So in light of that, and I know Mr. Gowan's noted the ones I've already said, and there's some members of the public that will email through a few more, are all the councillors happy to vote on that, please? All those in favour? And definitely carried, an important project. Thank you again, Mr. Gowans, for that. Item 11.2.2 is in regards to the planning and development update for February 2025. Again, thank you, Mr. Gowans, for speaking to this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take most of this report as read. This was obviously prepared as a summary of activity between October and December 2024. Just a couple of highlights in the report though. The planning team recently received a grant from the Regional Planning Hub to help prepare a municipal bushfire plan for the municipality. The plan is a key piece of work in determining and managing risks in preparation of future settlement and township planning when it comes to fire. And council will be briefed on this particular project in the near future, which will then come to council for a decision to implement that plan in the near future. The other thing just to point out is that recently the planning team undertook an audit of planning applications for the last 2 years as requested by council. The results revealing that overall Pyrenees provides a standard of service which is comparable or exceeds service delivery for neighbouring or other small similar-sized councils. However, we're not resting on our laurels. We know we need to continue to improve, and the team is also preparing a customer feedback survey to be offered to all future permit applicants to understand how we may improve planning services for customers. There's a fair bit in the report, but I'll take the rest of the report as read, and that the officer recommendation is that council notes the information and endorses the activity contained in the report, and that council notes the audit activities undertaken by the planning team and supports the preparation of a customer feedback survey, with the survey to be completed within the next 6 months with outcomes to be reported to council.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. May I ask the councillor to move a motion to that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Phelan. Any councillor to second that? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak?
Thank you. As everyone here may know, planning permits has been a big focus for councillors, and really trying to work with management, the Shire office, to improve some of the planning permit processes, which we heard, I think, through all of us, the councillors, through the campaign, that there's a view that maybe some of the processes are a bit onerous. So we have been working very closely with management to try and improve that. And I'm really pleased to see that there is a customer satisfaction survey coming. And I think one of the a very good addition to consider here for management is really being clear to applicants what are those kind of mandatory legislative requirements in planning permits that are issued, as opposed to some of the discretionary requirements which are being put on planning permits, because I know it's that, I think, discretionary element that has caused some concern. So if that could be clearly identified, and yeah, really pleased to see as well that there will be a customer satisfaction survey. Looking forward to seeing the outcomes of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phelan. Councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Here to support what Councillor Phelan has said, and there's not much we can do about most of those mandatory conditions. There's a legislative requirement for those, but we have been discussing the discretionary conditions at length, and that's what we really need to work on hard and continue to work on, because that can have a significant effect on the applicants. So we'll continue to work with them. We are hearing the community loud and clear. So we'll continue to work with the officers and work through that. And I'll just encourage people, if they unsure about conditions, to contact the council at an early stage and get some advice and work with them, because they will give you some very sound advice. And in fact, I've done it myself. So we don't know everything, but to get that advice, and they've got lots of applications available to them on the computers that we don't have, and they can find out information pretty quickly. So I just encourage people to make contact with the council at the early stage if they've got questions about those applications. Thank you.
Yeah, pertinent what you've said there, Councillor Ferrari. Any other councillors wanting to speak to that? Councillor Councillor Wardle. I thank you again, Mr. Gowans, for that report. And I think, it is good that our standard of services has come up comparable or exceeding. However, it will be very interesting to see how the customer service response does reflect that as well. But yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's really important what Councillor Ferrari was saying too, that people can ask those questions if they can't get those answers. So I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those, actually, we're not supposed to take questions, but can you want to state?
It's not a question.
Sorry.
It's not, there was a comment on the customer satisfaction survey.
Yes.
The questions that get asked are questions for giving council a tick on the back.
Do you feel? Yes.
They should. I've stopped doing them because of the questions that are not good. The first question they should ask is, what can council do to better serve you as the ratepayer? Things like that. And that's where you're going to get better feedback. And yeah, I used to do the survey things, but I've stopped doing it. I just thought council needs to know that.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Hanley. And that is noted. And good question. I've written down your question there. What can council do to better serve you? And so thank you. And I would, if we can change it, I'd love to encourage you to then bring us some feedback and reapply, because that would be awesome. But thank you.
And the other thing is, everything you've got to do it online. And I'm one of the dinosaurs that don't do that type of thing. Even to get the question in so that I could come here today, it took 5 efforts from my wife, and she spent about 2 hours trying to do it. I think you've got to think about the residents out there, and they're mostly got grey hair like me, that don't use computers.
And John, I use
Absolutely.
computers all the time, and I didn't find it very user friendly.
Oh, good comment as well. We want to definitely take that on notice, because we want to reach people. So I have in the past, there has been paper options, but people may not know that. And
But when you get to on the website, it's very hard to find the option to print the paper things.
oh yeah, brilliant. Sorry, but we will take that on notice. I will have to, with the meeting, the public participation section is meant for that. Please do email though if something else comes up during the meeting, please, because this is very valuable. I don't want to miss it. We just need to keep moving through. Thank you again. So we did vote on that, didn't we? Sorry. No. I'll just do that again. I'll put that motion to the vote. Thank you all. Oh, sorry, would you like to speak to that, Councillor Tom?
Yeah, actually, I will.
Yes,
Thank
please.
Mr. Hanley on that. And, no more public participation, but I think we need to strive as a community to grow our, don't just be average where we sit with our local councils. We want to be the top one that people come to us with, and that's going to happen by taking feedback from our residents and working to exceed what's been happening and strive for the top of the hill. Thank you.
Well said. And again, thank you very much. And now I will put that to the vote. All those in favour of that motion, then that is carried. Thank you all again. Great conversation. We're now up to item 11.2.3, which is in relation to Victoria's Climate Science Report from 2024. And thank you, Mr. Gowans, for presenting that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform Council of the release of Victoria's Climate Science Report dated last year, and the recent release of the Central Highlands climate projections. Victoria's Climate Science Report provides a comprehensive analysis of the current and projected impacts of climate change on the state of Victoria. The report assesses the state's vulnerability to environmental shifts, aiming to inform strategic planning and policy making to mitigate risks and adaptation to climate change. Within the report, there's a number of areas that looked into, and some of those include, and these won't be new to anyone in the room, but the fact that projections for heat waves will be longer and more intense, and they'll be more frequent. Temperatures are likely to increase, and the number of very hot days have more than doubled since 2005. We know from experience that the observations suggest bushfire frequency and severity is increasing. Droughts, future droughts will be significantly hotter and more frequent than past droughts. And rainfall, Victoria's annual rainfall has decreased, with extreme rainfall events almost doubling. So we're getting less, but when it does rain, we get the really big extremes. And that also means that floods, extreme floods, are predicted to increase in magnitude. While Victoria's climate science report does not provide explicit guidance on adaptation planning or climate risk assessment, it emphasises the critical integration of climate information into governance and decision-making processes. Utilising climate science observational data and projections can mitigate current exposure to economic and social impacts of climate change and enhance preparedness for extreme weather. As climate science advances, Council will play a crucial role in continuously updating and providing pertinent information to support the Pyrenees community in effectively managing risks concerning climate change. And it's the Office's recommendation that Council considers the Victorian Climate Change Science Report 2024 and the Central Highlands Climate Projections 2024 in the preparation of the Council plan. And the Council includes a link to the reports on the Council website.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. May I ask for a councillor happy to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Looking for a second or two, please. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Ferrari, would you like to speak to me?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Interesting stats. I have my thoughts about the climate change stuff, which I'll keep to myself, but I would like to point out, it says the bushfires suggest more frequency. Well, it's been highlighted in this room today by some people that have come along and addressed council the importance of, first of all, fuel reduction activities, and most importantly, the high importance of permanent water projects. So, if they're saying we're going to be dry and they know it, well, that should be a cue to do something about the water, or people in townships that haven't got water. And again, the rainfall, they're saying we're going to have a reduced rainfall. That's great. If that's what the science says it's showing, then that even again highlights about the importance of doing those water projects, especially to those areas that the farming areas and the people that I just find it a little hard in this day and age that we've got towns that haven't got potable water. So I just find that really amazing. But anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to? No, Councillor.
Thanks. I fully support Councillor Ferrari, your comments. I think for me, it's great we've got the climate science report, but for me what next? So it's a bit about the adaptation planning, as I think Mr. Gowan, you referred to. It's the interpretation for the local community. What does it mean if we have less rain? Are we looking at the sort of crops that we can grow in these climate scenarios? Like, what's the analysis that we're doing to really support farming in other communities, or in the great growers, whoever it is? I think that's the missing piece, because we can have these great reports put out by climate scientists, but now what do we do? What does it actually mean for us and the local community, or the Shire? It would be great to see some work done on that.
Yeah, gosh, and I know, Councillor Phelan, you've brought up, even if you're looking at council plan like that, just that, how do we give that information to farmers? How do we better use this knowledge to then help them farm better, or any business? It's incredibly important. And the trend in the data is, because if you read through the report, it's interesting, like it may not be overall hotter weather the whole time. It might be just a number of the hottest days that can then really impact a business, or that has doubled since, so I think it was here since 2005. So all that sort of information, to pull that out and better use that information. Totally agree with you, gosh. Councillor Wardlaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I like the report. I do feel, though it is short term, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, the weather is cycles, 100-year cycles, 20-year cycles. I've got videos of 1912 drought in Australia that was phenomenal, and you see these droughts where the dust is just blowing away. So, although I respect the report completely and I realise it's covering shorter amounts of time, I do believe that we've been here before and, not in our lifetime, but we've been here before, that maybe we should be looking a little bit further than just this 20-odd years. Maybe we should be looking at the 100-year cycles and seeing what's actually going to happen. And all of it comes down to, though, we need water. And when it talks about bushfire frequency, though, is that necessarily due to the weather? Yes, the weather has a lot to do with it. Or is it due to the fact that we haven't burnt the forests out at the right time of the year or grazed them out or things like that? So there's a lot more to it than just a 5-year report, in my opinion.
Yeah, gosh, thanks, Councillor Wardlaw. And again, we've been through this, how are we getting better? How are we getting better and will improve in the future? So thank you both. All those comments very pertinent. Any other comments or discussion on that before I put that to the vote? I will now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, and that is carried. Thank you. And thank you again for the preparation of that report. We're now up to the corporate and community services part of the meeting, and item 11.3.1. It relates to our mid-year financial review, and I will ask Ms Bramwell please to speak to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report provides Council with an update on the financial performance for the first half of the financial year. So at the midpoint of this year, the forecast results indicate an improvement in the operating results of just over 3 million, due primarily to increases in capital and financial assistance grants. Cash and investments are forecast to finish approximately $500,000 ahead, again due to the increase in financial assistance grants from the federal government. Outstanding rate debtors are in line with forecast, but that is significantly higher than past years. And Council traditionally funds the Council contribution to the Roads to Recovery programme directly from capital works, and there was a shortfall this year of 126,000. And within the current budget, there's no unallocated amount of 500,000 for strategic projects, and Council is recommending that 250,000 of that be allocated to additional infrastructure works to cover that contribution. So the review of financials for the period ending 31st of December indicated that the performance for the current financial year is operating within Council's long-term financial plan, and that there is no requirement for the Council to prepare revised budget. And that is each year. The second part of this report is about rating levels. The Minister for Local Government sets the local council rate cap for the next financial year prior to the 31st of December. And that limits the maximum amount a council can increase general rates and municipal charges across the board. Obviously, individual rates differ, can be higher or lower. And the rate cap for the 2025-26 financial year has been set at 3%. If the rate cap doesn't meet an individual council's need, they do have the option to apply for a higher rate cap for up to 4 years at a time. It's the office's recommendation that council receives and notes the financial performance report for the period 1st of July 2024 to the 31st of December 2024 and the projected forecast for the year. Notes the CEO declaration that pursuant to the Local Government Act, there's no requirement that the Pyrenees Shire Council prepare a revised budget. Allocates 250,000 from the strategic capital projects to carry out additional infrastructure works and to cover the required council funding for the Roads to Recovery programme, and resolves not to seek a higher rate cap for the 2025-26 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. May I have a councillor willing to move a motion to that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw and someone to second that. Thank you, councillor Phelan. Councillor Wardlaw, did you want to speak to that at all? Councillor Phelan. Thank you, councillor Toll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I suggest that we look further into it? We've got an unallocated amount of 500,000 on street projects. With the feedback we've got for the gap sealing and the take-up demand, we may be able to get Evans Road done and a couple of other things done if we dip into that. It's a fairly cost-effective way of pleasing our community. So it might be something to take on board. Thank you.
Well, thank you, councillor Toll. Councillor Ferrari?
Yeah.
No, you're happy? No, thank you, Ms Bramwell, for the information in that report and definitely take on notice what councillor Toll said as we look at our setting budget and continuing to revise that. So all those in favour, I put that motion to the vote and that is all carried. Thank you. Item 11.3.2 is in regards to a proposal to name an unnamed road in Avoca between Rutherford Street and Barnett Street, to name this as Webb Street. Thank you, Ms Bramwell again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report aims to finalise the naming process for the unnamed road between Rutherford Street and Barnett Street, Avoca, as Webb Street. In November, council started the process for the naming of the unnamed road, and it was advertised. Recommendation was advertised in local media and via a direct mail out to adjoining property owners in December, and we also invited descendants of the person whom the road was going to be named after, Emma Webb, to contact council regarding the use of that name. It was advertised for 5 weeks and no submissions were received by council. So it is the officer's recommendation that council adopts the name Webb Street, which has historical ties to the area, and forwards a report to the Registrar of Geographic Names for consideration of the name Webb Street. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms Bramwell. Very interesting on Emma Webb. So I would like to ask the councillor who's willing to move a motion to that recommendation. Thank you, councillor Wardlaw again, and councillor Phelan. Thank you, councillor Wardlaw. Would you like to speak to that at all?
No,
just yeah. Councillor Phelan. No. Any other councillor? Oh no, sorry, councillor.
Sorry.
Wild Beauty Swallow. I think it's a very apt name. I'm very excited and I find through this process we're learning so many great historical things. So I hope that will also filter through to people who find the names of these streets and want to find out a bit more about them. But sorry,
that's right. Thank you, Mayor and Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering whether there's any way of communicating to the public where this name has come from, because I see it's part of kind of the gender, equity program. But if people just see the surname, they probably won't be aware of the historical ties or of the woman that this is named after. So it'd be good. I don't know if we need a little storyboard or something.
Yeah.
But also it's not specifically about this street, but I have had some residents, particularly who are going off printed maps, just talking about the importance of keeping maps up to date for, themselves trying to find locations, whether in townships, but also for the volunteer firefighters, that often roads aren't actually updated on the paper-based maps. So good to get that done as well for these newly named streets.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I think that gets back to another comment made this evening. So thank you, Ms Bramwell. If you could take that recommendations to the printed maps, and also maybe some way we can do that. I know with Catherine Kirkland, you were able to led us to a book where she's quoted in, and that was fabulous. So perhaps we can be creative in doing the same thing with Emma Webb, because an amazing lady that we really want to celebrate. Any other comments on that before we put that to the vote? I'll put that motion then to the vote, please. All those in favour? And that's carried. Webb Street it is. We're now up to item 11.3.3, which is a proposal to name another unnamed road, but this one is off Racecourse Road, Beaufort, and to rename that as Kirkland Court. Sorry, I preempted that a bit there.
Oh.
Ms Bramwell, no, please.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report aims to finalise the naming process for another unnamed road off Race Course Road, Beaufort, as Kirkland Court, after an early pioneer, Catherine Kirkland, who also was a published author, and as you said, we found some reference to that in a book which we circulated to councillors, which was really great. In November again, councillors resolved to commence the process for the naming of this road, and the recommendation of Kirkland Court was advertised in the local media and again via direct mail out to adjoining property owners and to descendants of Catherine Kirkland regarding the use of that name. There were no submissions received. It's quite usual if there's no objections that people don't tend to write, oh yeah, I think this is great. So it's the officer's recommendation that council adopts the name Kirkland Court, which has historical ties to the area, and forwards a report to the Registrar of Geographic Names for consideration of the name Kirkland Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. May I ask for a motion moved there? Thank you, Councillor Phelan, and seconded Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak to that one similarly? Or?
Just to reiterate the message from before, it would be really good if we can get print-based maps updated, and good to learn more about the woman that this road is named after, court's named after. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor Ferrari, no, you're happy? I think, yeah, again, an amazing person that we can celebrate in a way that's long-lasting. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of that motion, and that is carried. We're now up to item 11.3.4, and this is in relation to the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund, the ESVF. You'll find on your rates notice. I'll hand over to Ms Bramwell again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report details changes being made to the Fire Services Property Levy, which is currently on rates notices, the first stage of which will come into effect on 1st of July this year. The Fire Services Property Levy is an annual levy collected by councils via rates notices on behalf of the state government. And this levy ensures that Victorian property owners make an annual contribution to the state's fire services, including the CFA. So revenue raised by that fund, it funds 87.5% of fire rescue Victoria and 77.5% of the CFA annually. The actual fund was instituted as a recommendation of the Bushfire Royal Commission in 2013. There are some discounts available for pensioners and things like that, but in general it's fixed rate. From the 1st of July this year, that particular levy will be replaced by the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund. So this is being changed to fund a broader range of emergency services. So it's not restricted to fire, but also includes SES, 000 Victoria, State Control Centre, Forest Fire Management Victoria, and Emergency Recovery Victoria, as well as continuing to fund CFI and Fire Rescue Victoria. So the levy under the ESVF will be adjusted to account for its larger financial remit. So it's going to have to cover more emergency services. So therefore it's likely to be, it will be more. Although we haven't been informed of the new rates yet, because that will be likely to be issued in May. So there's an impact to council operations through the implementation, which will be absorbed within council's operational administration, but the existing vacant land category is going to be abolished, with vacant land allocated to its corresponding land use area. So for instance, vacant industrial land will be now levied at the industrial rate. Eligible CFA and VCSES volunteers will receive an exemption, so that's an incentive to volunteer, everyone. But that will also increase the internal resources needed to manage those exemptions. But we don't quite know what information needs to be obtained and how we're going to do that yet. A second set of changes will commence from the 1st of July next year, 2026, including a new principal place of residence category for owner occupiers. So that means, I think that there's a table there. So at the moment, it's the same rate for personal place of residence and none, which will mean rental properties and things, but of course that indicates that it might change in the future. There has been a deal of dissatisfaction in the across communities, not necessarily just ours, but everywhere, within the local government sector due to the impact the change will have on councils and farming communities already impacted financially by cost of living and the cost of doing business. And advocacy has been taken up across the sector on behalf of councils by the MAB, Rural Councils Victoria, and the Greater Ballarat Alliance of Councils, GBAC. And there is likely, when the rates notices go out, we'll have to manage the publicity carefully, because there is likely to be negative publicity, because the community and our ratepayers are likely to see that as an increase imposed by council on their rates, whereas it's not, we're just collecting on behalf of government and it's not actually us seeing the money. Yes. And so it's the officer's recommendation that council notes the information provided in the report and the impacts associated with the introduction of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund, and continues to support the advocacy by the MAB, Rural Councils Victoria and the Greater Ballarat Alliance of Councils on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. May I ask for a councillor to move that motion to the recommendation? Thank you, councillor Toll. Seconded, councillor Phelan. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to that?
I'd love to. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If the state government allocated its funds properly and everything, they wouldn't have to put up their fees this high. This is my opinion, not that of my fellow councillors. It's an absolute insult that this tax is going on the farmers and everyone involved in it, that are giving up, just this year, giving up their Christmases to go and fight fires and then get slugged with this. It'd be fantastic if we knew that every bit of money we gave to them came back into providing some fire trucks and vehicles for everyone, but we sure as well know that doesn't happen. I would like everyone to go back to the communities and encourage people to join their CFA, join their SES, whatever, just so they can get this discount on that. And it might send a message down to Spring Street that the people in the bush aren't happy. So, Madam Mayor, your role on Rural Council and MAV,
absolutely.
I think we've got to push every rural person to join one of those emergency services. Thank you.
Could I speak to that motion?
No.
I can't, sorry, I can't keep doing
It's
this,
not
but
a
if you could email.
Council should have on their rate notice at the very
You,
top.
actually, sorry, if you can sit down. Sorry, there is, I will speak to that though, Mr Henley, which I think we're going to
follow it up.
definitely follow it up, yeah, because that's it. But I think I know what you're about to say. I'll just let the other councillors speak first, sorry. Yeah,
Thank you. I was also going to encourage residents to sign up for the CFA, but also just noting the impact there and the very significant increases, for example, 146% for farmers. I think it's really important that the local community knows what the result of the advocacy is, so that we are very public about the advocacy plan and what the impact of that advocacy has been. Really critical given some of the cost increases here.
Absolutely.
I mean, hopefully the advocacy is effective, but we also need to be open about what that advocacy is.
Megan, add that to the resolution.
Oh, yes, actually, that's a really good idea. So sorry, if you wanted to add that, because you moved it, didn't you, councillor Toll and councillor Phelan, you could add that to the recommendation as well as a further.
Motion.
To the motion, sorry. Yeah, so you could add that as a third point if you were both happy to do so.
Yes.
You're happy to do that. Yeah. So that further advocacy, how would you like to word that? Further advocacy and reporting on that advocacy. Yeah, you moved it. So
Can we add something else into that? And I think it's similar to what Stanley was going to say.
you just have to stand up.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I think we should add something else into that motion if we're going to do it. It's exactly what Mr. Hanley was saying. I think the council should put something in the rate notices and whatever, that it is not a council charge, but have it, you know, we're collecting this money for the state government, and that should be well aware that we publicise that. Because a lot of people still think it's coming to the council, which it's not. And it's not fair that the council has to collect it, in my opinion, and I think we have to pay for it in advance. Mr. Nolan, do we?
Did you quickly, oh, sorry.
So we don't pay for it in advance. I believe that we collect it and then we provide it to the Commonwealth government, to the state government. I just want to clarify what the motion is. There's two further points to the
Have you
motion.
got any of that down yet, Shan?
Yeah.
Do you want to read back what you've got there?
So I've got what Simon said, that council should put something in the rate notices that it is not a council charge, that we're collecting the money for the state government.
Thank you, and also that there's further advocacy in regards to this issue and reporting on the effectiveness of that advocacy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Putting words in your mouth, sorry. And just, I'll let councillors, but I will, because I know this has come up about how we're actually regulated. We cannot change how it appears on the rates notice. Is that correct? We're limited to how we can put it on the rates notice because it is a state charge. This is the most frustrating thing. It's not council putting this on there. Oh, sorry, Ms. Bramwell, can you speak to that, please? Just to answer a few of those queries.
Just to answer the comments made by Councillor Toll and you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
We are limited in what we can change on the rates notice, but I don't know whether the actual wording is mandated. But one thing we are looking at is whether we can identify it quite clearly as a separate charge, and we're already looking at that. But it's not necessarily what the government limits us, it's the actual printing of the rates notice itself. There's a lot of information on it. Yes, and with regards to the payment of the levy, we only give to the government what we actually receive. So if someone doesn't pay it, we don't give that, you know. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further comments on that or discussion?
No, you answered my question.
You answered your question, yeah. So actually, that's great. I hope that answered the public question too. Any other further on that? But we will absolutely continue to advocate. Just on the advocacy, Rural Councils Victoria, that's number one at the moment. Because you'll notice, like, just to look at farmers, that there's one example there where the average difference is 146%. It's just, it's criminal really. And like say, although I know that there are amendments now to those that are in the CFA, but thank goodness, but you know, some of these people that were paying that differential rate, they are the ones going out protecting everyone that this levy is meant to be helping. Instead, it's hindering them. So we would definitely be advocating, and as a council as well, absolutely. But we do want to put that message out there to residents that this is not a local government. This is not the Pyrenees Shire that's putting up this rate on your rates, this portion of the rates. It's directly from the state government. So yeah, but again, of course, we need to find these funds somewhere, but it needs to be fair and equitable, and it needs to go to the right places there. So if we're happy with that altered recommendation, that motion rather, that thank you, Shan's typed in there with the 4 elements. Is all councillors willing to vote on that, please? All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is item 11.4.1, and that is the 2025 council meeting schedule, which is printed in the agenda there. And I'll now refer to Mr. Nolan, please, to speak to that.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This doesn't require any explanation, really. There's a meeting schedule that's in the agenda and it's there for council's endorsement.
Yeah, thank you. Just noting that meeting nights are generally a Monday evening now, as opposed to Tuesday, which has been current practice just before now, but now it's on Mondays. So may I ask a councillor to move that? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw. And any comments on that? So we can put that straight to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Item 11.4.2 is noting the Australian Local Government Association, the National General Assembly, that's on, and we'll be looking at participation of that. Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is put to council for transparency purposes and some direction from council in respect of the National General Assembly that's held in Canberra each year. It has been customary for the Mayor and CEO to attend that. And it's an opportunity to participate in a national agenda that on issues that affect local government. And we've heard a number of those issues tonight in this forum in respect of funding, some of the more critical funding that council relies on to do its road programs and any of its other programs, the advocacy around water, climate change, and the effect of natural disasters on our communities are all part of the national agenda, and it is an opportunity to participate in that. Councillors, it is a council decision. The council think there's value in this to do it, then it's certainly something that I support. If council of the view that there's not the value that's in it, and those ratepayer funds could be better spent somewhere else, then we don't go and we do the advocacy some other way. But I'm in your hands, councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. So do I have a council willing to move the recommendation, or with the to move a motion on the recommendation, or they're happy to change that, or very open to that? Councillor Ferrari, you would like to move that?
I'm happy to move it.
Motion as a recommendation stands, and happy Councillor Phelan. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Ferrari?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, we are very conscious here at Pyrenees about the junkets, for want of a better word, and we're very conscious that we won't attend what we don't need to attend, but this is actually an important event to attend and have council representation up in Canberra, because you actually get the opportunity to have direct engagement with ministers and other political members that you wouldn't normally get, and discuss things that you really need to discuss. So, and we've done that in the past, and we've had benefit from that in the past. So it is really, really important. It's one that I just think it's so important that we need to continue to do that. So it is important. Thank you. And not only that, it gives the opportunity to engage with other councillors and representatives from right across Australia. So it's a really, really important event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I fully support what Councillor Ferrari just said. Such an important opportunity to advocate, particularly on the pipeline, not only on the pipeline, but also, you know, back to the former items. I think the economic update did ask for coordinated or support for advocacy, and so I think if there's any opportunity for councillors to feed into that narrative, that really strong advocacy piece, or even community members, to really build that story and be forward looking and not just looking at the size of the communities now, but it's the potential, and really being able to tell the story of what the potential is if we get water into the northern part of the Shire in particular, but not only that.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, you're that. Yeah. Any other councillors would like to speak to that? Councillor Natal? No. I think it is always a hard one, because we want to be very conscious, and we're stewards of the funds that are made available to us. And I know as a council set, we're really, there's a lot of things we could attend that we choose not to because we don't think the value is in it, or we choose one of us go to represent all of us and come back. It's definitely about the value for money. This one is a hard one because it is a big thing, but it's also one that's absolutely pertinent, that gets us right there within government, right directly to ministers. And we've got a voice just as strong as the biggest metro councils as a little council up there, because we get the voting rights, and we get the opportunity to really have that impact. And it is the only opportunity we get to meet with councils across Australia. So there's other rural councils in other states that could be dealing with the same things, hence water and those sorts of things, where we can really pick their brains and get to network with. So it is an important one, and particularly this year with elections and those sorts of things, could be very pertinent to be up there even more than other years. We feel so. So yeah, it probably is. That's what good comments. I can hear the comments coming there. So with that in front of us, that motion in front of us, all those in favour, and that is carried. Thank you very much for that. Item 11.4.3 is in relation to a Pyrenees Acquisitive Art Prize. Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
Thanks you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report really is to seek endorsement of the council about an annual acquisition art prize, both to Beaufort and Avoca arts communities as part of their arts exhibition. And the value has been $750 per exhibition. And the recommendation is that council continues that sponsorship for those prizes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. May I have a councillor move a motion to that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw, and seconded Councillor Toll. Councillor Wardlaw, would you like to speak to that?
I'd like to, yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I absolutely support art, whether it be painting, music, all of it, you know, and I have daughters that are very artistic and into these types of things, and I just think it's wonderful. So we definitely need to support young people, old people alike. It's great.
Well said. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to that? Any other councillors? Councillor Gillen?
Yeah, I also would like to add to Councillor Wardlaw's comments. I'm a huge supporter of all the creative arts, and I think the first time I ever came to this office, I admired all of the artwork around, which of course is I think all by local artists, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to use this opportunity as well to give a little plug for the Moonabel photographic competition, which is coming up. I heard some of our local residents on the Great Goldfields FM radio station today, giving a plug to the photographic art competition, which is coming up and being judged, I think, on the 5th of April. So get your entries in, everybody. Show your artistic strength. Thank you.
Well said, both councillors. Thank you very much. But I think, yeah, definitely get your entries into the Moonabel Photographic Arts competition. So looking forward to seeing what does come there. But it's, again, great to be able to acquire this amazing art and from our local artists and support, again, another incredibly important part of our business in Pyrenees. So, and in that art space. So asking all those to take that motion and vote on that, all those in favour, and that's carried. Thank you. Now to item 11.4.4, which is the advocacy program, and Mr. Nolan will speak to this program.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And advocacy has come up once tonight, and it's really an important part of council's core business, because council can't do all the things it wants to do in the community by itself. Can't fund everything. We need external funding. We need support in many other ways. What is set out in the attachment to this report is a program for 2025 to provide a guide to the various issues that require some level of advocacy to government, and there's quite a lot of them. And council on its own can't actually advocate sufficiently to be able to get to get successful outcome here. It requires partnerships, and some of those partnerships are with things like the ALGA Association, with the MAV, with Rural Councils Victoria, Tourism Midwest Victoria, GBAC, the Greater Ballarat Alliance of Councils, the Western Highway Action Committee are just a few of the committees and the groups that council partners with to try and get advocacy and attention, both state and Commonwealth government, on a whole range of issues as listed in this report. And the attachment provides a little further detail about some of the specific things that need that advocacy. It's a really important part of council's business, and whilst this is not, fixed in concrete, it's a bit of a moving feast because issues arise, from time to time, whether it be a new law that's introduced by the state or a new initiative that requires representation by the councillors, by the council on behalf of the community that might be impacted by these things, then that program can be added, extended, improved. But in the first instance, there's a recommendation there, councillors, that the draft advocacy program be endorsed by council. Thank you.
And that draft advocacy program is an attachment, so you can go online to see that if you'd like to check that out. Those in the gallery for the benefit of those. So I'll open that up. Do I have a councillor please willing to move a motion to that recommendation? Thank you, councillor Phelan. A seconded, councillor Ferrari. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to again reiterate, as I said before, this advocacy is absolutely critical to getting some of these projects over the line. And I think it would be really good to see a bit of detail built into the advocacy plan and the key messaging. I know that all of the councillors feel really passionately about the areas on this list, and I'm sure community members do as well. That's whose voices we're channeling here. So the more I guess we can understand about some of the messaging and the strategies to advocate and how we can contribute, I think would be really appreciated.
Yeah, that's really pertinent, and I know Jim's writing that down just to that messaging and strategies, because that's how we will be more effective. Other comments or discussion on that? Thank you, councillor Ferrari.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. It is a really important part of our day-to-day work and through the year, the advocacy. And it's really important not just for Pyrenees to try and do that on their own, but to team with others, because, you know, the larger the voice, the more that it's likely to be heard. And a classic example is the advocacy that we've joined with other councils in relation to the emergency services fire fund, emergency services and volunteers fund. So if we went into try and advocate to get changes that on our own, we certainly wouldn't be heard. If every rural council across the state joins together, if they do, then we've got a chance of being heard. So thank you.
Thank you, councillor Ferrari. Other councillors? I think, again, just reiterating that what councillor Ferrari said, and it's already been said a number of times, these issues that we massively have to advocate on, it's telecommunications, it's the pipeline, it's water, it's road and bridge programs, it's drought, bushfire and flood recovery. It's, Mr Hanley had alluded to, you know, getting those bridges, being able to open, there's one there, that bridge 10 open to a higher mass vehicles, there's township improvements, there's you know, specific projects like caravan park and all that. It is really important that we're loud and clear and using those advocacy options as well, channels. The RCV, I'm meeting with them next week. We're meeting with RDV just on Friday. We're part of a cooperative to get together in Ararat. It is happening, but we need to be even on top of it even more. So, so very much thank you for that support, and we'll and that advice on that too. So I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, and that's carried too. Thank you very much. We're up to item 11.4.5, and that is in regards to external grant funding. And again, Mr Nolan, would you please speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I've been harping on about the importance of external funding to council to be able to do the things we need to do. And this report provides a bit of a status report actually to council on some significant movements in recent time. The first is the Burke Street Housing Project, and what's previously been reported to council is that council received a grant of $3.4 million from the state government towards worker accommodation at that on that project, and more recently council has received $2 million towards the construction of that subdivision, which will see 35 housing sites available in Beaufort, and that's all part of council's housing program. The Baindane Rocky Road bushfire, council has been advised recently about that it will receive up to $500,000 to reimburse council for eligible costs incurred associated with the bushfire that relate to expenses that have been incurred after October, which is the kicker in that one. But that is otherwise good news, Madam Mayor, and we're continuing to incur costs which include, things like road damage as a result of harvesting activities which have been triggered by the bushfire, for example. Beaufort's Men's Shed project, some publicity about that in recent times of a grant of $100,000 to council to assist in delivering an improved men's shed outcome there, which will be supported with funding from the insurance, council's insurance of the building that was damaged by the flood. And then under sport and recreation grants, there are opportunities there to apply for further grants, and we are working with communities to develop an application for Natty Alec Recreation Reserve under the sport rec grants, and we're engaging with Sport and Recreation Victoria over support for funding for a recreation strategy review, which was last done in 2017. It was a 10-year strategy, 2017 to 2027, but it's due for a fresh look, and also continuing to support opportunities for walking and cycling pathways. Under the Safer Local Roads and Infrastructure program, that's another program that's been actively sort of pursued, and I guess a disappointing result under that program that we were unsuccessful with an application for one of our bridges. We talked about the 20-odd bridges that have load limits that need work. Lots of work goes into putting applications together for funding. They're not always successful. And in this case, funding for Bridge 7 was unsuccessful. We've previously applied for funding for Bridge 10, which is on the Carnham-Beaufort Road. That's a project that's between $1.5 and $2 million. There's no way that the council could sort of fund that out through our own reserves. That requires funding, and that was unsuccessful as well. So we're not all successful, and I put that one in there just to demonstrate to the councillors that there's a lot of effort goes into grant seeking, and there's a cost associated with that. So councillors, look, the recommendation to you tonight is that you acknowledge the funding received, committed for the various projects and activities described in this report, and that council continues to pursue funding opportunities referred to in this report.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Nolan. Lots happening and lots still to look forward to be advocating for. May I ask the councillor to move a motion to that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Seconded, Councillor Wardlaw. Councillor Ferrari, would you like to speak to it? Councillor Wardlaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of work goes into getting these grants, and I thank all the members of the Shire who put in their hard hours and try and fight for funding for us, including the CEO. I just wondered if we might not be able to include on the list under the sport and recreation grants the upgrade for the lighting to the Avoca football ground. The current lights are known to fail when the grid is overused, so they can be in the middle of training and all the lights go out. I'm not sure what the process is, but I just wanted to bring that one up, and hopefully at some stage we can sort that one out as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodlaw. Other councillors, Councillor Phelan.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to also see whether we could add to the sports and recreation one, which of course fellow councillors and officers have heard before, and that is to see whether we can add the Landsborough Pavilion so that they can really make good use of that. And I do note there is also consideration being given to funding for pool improvements, which of course has been a big issue in Beaufort, but it would be great to think about, together with projects like the Burke Street development, there are going to be more people coming into Beaufort. Can we look at kind of a whole new development that has a gym that's looking, the pool, the gym that's looking to 10 years' time, rather than fixing what we have, because I understand that's proving problematic as well. So.
And you're echoing what communities are saying too very much. Gosh, Councillor Phelan. I might just ask Mr. Nolan to respond to that if you don't mind. But before I do that, or are we happy to move that, and I'll move back to discussion. Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Could you just address that last point?
Thanks for the opportunity, Madam Mayor. Just to add a couple of comments here. Just on that sport and recreation funding program, there's a number of categories. And each of those categories have their own guidelines, specific guidelines. It's fair to say that the number of possible recreation projects is a long list. It's an incredibly long list. And I'm sure, Councillor Ferrari and Councillor Toll would like to add a few projects on there as well. Important to be able to even get a look in with these projects is to make sure that you actually do the planning before you actually get to the table. So in the case of lighting for Avoca, there's been an investment some years ago in doing engaging an expert to provide guidance on what's required around lighting. So that actually helps you to get the first foot in the door. And council was successful through one of these programs to secure lighting for the Beaufort Recreation Reserve a couple of years ago, which has turned out to be a $600,000 project and now have beautiful lights at that reserve. That's actually taken quite a long time to get to that point, but some of that work is already in progress. At Walbra, we're investing a lot of time at the moment to do a master plan at Walbra. We've invested a lot of time doing a master plan at the Beaufort Goldfields. These master plans take some time to develop, and they're developed from the community up to understand what's best needed for the community. And once you've actually got a plan, you've got a better opportunity to be able to secure funding. And so investing in the planning is really important. In terms of the pools funding, there is some limitation on the pools funding that's available. It's generally for either new or upgraded facilities. And at this point in time, our strategic pool plan is in development. We really need to have that plan in place before we can apply for upgrade or new facilities around pools. In terms of kind of any maintenance that might be needed in the interim until that time, then we'll continue to work with government to see if there are other avenues for that. But the specific program that we're targeting this time around has limitations on it. And of course, we can apply or we can try, but the chances of getting it successful is really difficult. So we have a good relationship with Sport and Rec Victoria, and they provide guidance on projects that are likely to be successful. So I hear the sentiment in the room that recreation projects are all really vitally important to our communities, from the small towns right through to our main centres. So happy to take that on notice. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Just a quick question. Do we know when that, or do we have sort of a rough timeline for when that pool strategy will be developed, or can you speak to that at this stage? Taking a notice.
Look, I think we can be hopeful that during the course of 2025, we actually haven't set a date for that. The work is being done principally internally, we would be hopeful that we would have some detailed information to be able to table for the community around the middle of the year and get comment from the community about it. There is some invasive testing of some of the assets that needs to be done. We can only do that in the off season.
Sure.
We'd be hopeful that we'd have something around the middle of the year for the community to be able to sort of get involved in.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. So if there's further discussion, Councillor Barry, Councillor Toll, no, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, and that is carried unanimously as well. That brings us now to our councillor reports and general business, and I'm going to look at my first victim, Councillor Ferrari, if you don't mind, please. We'd love to hear what you've been up to. It's been a little while since our last meeting, but love to hear what you've been up to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Usual meeting, council briefings and meetings. We had a couple down at Snake Valley there a little while ago. Attended the Western Highway Action Committee meeting. And I do note that we did speak about some works that have recently happened at Beaufort in Lawrence Street, which is good because it's been a long time coming. And the eastern entrance to Beaufort, which was really, really in poor condition, but it's really pleasant to drive on now. And of course, the works further out at Tuwalla. So hopefully they'll continue on to Adelaide. Had a meeting with the BPS 60, the Beaufort Primary School, the old Beaufort Primary School. They're a really good committee there, and they're very active and they're very passionate about that school. And of course, we've got that funding of $800,000 to be put towards a plan and perhaps to do some initial work. So that's well and truly in progress, and the meeting was very fruitful the other day, and those meetings will continue. Had a lot of discussions with constituents regarding the Beaufort swimming pool, of course. And the bubbling in the liner was the original issue, and some repairs were done, and it was deemed safe for use. That was some time ago. The new issue is, there's my understanding, there's water in behind the liner, and it's caused the liner to come away from the wall right around the edge of the pool. So it's a fairly significant issue that is getting looked at. It's not an easy fix, I guess. In short term, I guess we've been asked, can we open the pool? I'm not really sure. I don't think we're at the stage where we can provide that a definitive answer with that, because obviously safety is paramount in relation to that. So we have heard you, I have heard you, and it's a shame that we're rapidly coming towards the end of the season, and this couldn't have happened, after the gates were shut for the season, but it is what it is, and we'll continue to deal with it, and the council will continue to provide regular updates. Councillor Phelan stole some of my thunder there. When we think about the pool, I think about not just the pool, of course. I think it's a bit iconic for Beaufort, and I swam there as a kid, which is a few years ago, and I can see some people in here that swam a bit older than me, perhaps, and they swam in the pool when they were kids as well. But I think there's a much bigger picture to be looked at down there, and not just the pool. The pool's ageing, but the infrastructure around it's ageing too, like the change rooms are, at the end of their life, the canteen, all that stuff there. It looks. I think there's a real opportunity to do something really good then. It's a great space. There's a lot of room and stuff like a health and wellbeing centre incorporated with it, rehabilitation capabilities, and just a multi-purpose facility. I think it would be just fantastic. The only other thing is I'd just like to go back to our Australia Day event and just again say how impressed I was by our speaker, Rowan Martin. And it was referenced here today about what he said about what we should be at in our community, and especially about thinking about moving forward as Australians in Australia Day. And I think he nailed it really, really well. And what he said was really fitting, and I think it was real Australian. So I would have to say, not taking away from other ambassadors we've had, but I would have to say his speech was probably one of the best I've heard since I've been on council. So thank you.
Gosh, thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Toll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be as long as Damien. He's mentioned most of the things I was going to mention. But, we do have to get this pool up and going in some way or another. And I know we've got to do the due diligence on whatever and then find the funding for a new one or whatever. But that will, in due course, that'll all happen and we'll move on. Mr. Swan, I was upset to hear tonight about the granting of the permit to do that. That's the first I've heard of it. So I think as an organisation, we need to improve our communication on getting things out, because I would have rung you otherwise, and I apologise for just hearing tonight. Going back to the Australia Day Awards, I think it was fantastic. And for those of you there, Rowan was one of my groomsmen at my wedding, and a hell of a nice bloke, and been through a hell of a lot in his career. And as Damien said, he absolutely nailed at the current point in where Australia sits at the moment, what we should be thinking of doing. I hosted a Christmas party for fellow councillors and executive staff at home prior to Christmas, and it was a great way for us all to get to know each other on a different level rather than stuck around some tables and meet families and whatever, which was a terrific night. A little bit windy, but it was a good night. And then all the normal briefings and whatever that we've had, and bits and pieces around the traps. What else have I got here? Just like to take this opportunity to thank all the CFA members in the community that have gone up to the fires over Christmas, given up their Christmases and whatever, and really greatly appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. May I move to councillor Phelan? Are you happy
Sure.
to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, in addition to what others have already mentioned in terms of the formal council meetings and briefings that we've been to, a real highlight for me over the last couple of months, I guess, has been the Decameron ward meetings that I've had with constituents. So I had a session in Moonabel, Landsborough, Redbank and Lexton, which councillor Toll shared with me. And it's just I was so impressed to see our community members engage in that process and talk about what they want to see in the council plan. And not that I expected anyone would do this, but no one was saying, I want my, something fixed on my property. They were thinking big picture, what's good for the town, what change do they want to see? And they were really engaged in that process. So I was hugely impressed, and I look forward to holding more of those meetings with constituents. As people know, I'm new to Pyrenees. And so given that there are, sometimes you have meetings where you just get so struck by the passion and commitment of some community members. And I had one of those moments when I went to the Landsborough Historical Society to meet with members of that society and hear about the work they're doing. And I just came away so impressed with the time and effort that they are putting in to bring, to save the history, to collect the history. They've done amazing work on a rail trail for the lost stations of the Pyrenees, and an absolutely beautiful video on their website, which I encourage everyone to see, to look at, which is the story of Landsborough, but it's done a combination of some of the older residents with primary school kids, and it is so creative and so clever. So yeah, I've really enjoyed getting out and meeting with and speaking with constituents. And one other I'll mention is I've had quite a few meetings again on a Landsborough related issue about getting the resource centre opened up. And I'm very pleased that next Saturday morning I will be going to the opening of the resource centre. So thrilled to see that opening again. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you, councillor Phelan. That's wonderful to hear about the resource centre too. So I hope that goes very, very well. Councillor Wardlaw.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Well, it's been a busy couple of months, as everyone would know, Christmas. So just before Christmas, I got to go to the men's shared morning tea, and in the same week, the senior citizens Christmas lunch, sorry. And then this past week, two members of our community, Ron Reid and Melva Burns, 90 and 87, have both passed away. And so it's just like, yeah, you remember those moments that, you got to go to something and enjoy that time with that person. And I'm just glad that I was able to be part of that. And they were just fantastic people in the community in every single way. Then we had the Advance of Ochre Christmas party, where I had the pleasure of delivering Santa in my horse and carriage. I just want to commend the community and the hardworking people, that made the event possible. These are people that work full-time jobs, but they're members of the CFA, or they're members of this, and they just put the night together flawlessly, and it was packed up within 45 minutes, and we were all sitting going, wow, it's done, So, and these are the things that just make me proud, really proud of the people in our town, our community, whether that be Natty. They had their big thing last year for the 100 years of the school, I think 100 years of the school. And, that was fantastic as well. So community, it's all about the people. Other than that, we got to go to Mount Mitchell Estate, thanks to Simon and his lovely wife. And we had a fantastic evening where we actually got to go sit in the library and see the music room. And it was just beautiful. The setting is amazing. So next time he has an open day, do go. It is just so worth doing. And other than that, I've just been working hard, briefings. We've been getting together, doing everything that needs to be done to get the strategic plan on the way. And yeah, we're just working through the items one at a time.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wardlaw. And gosh, as you know, it has been just incredibly busy. And part of our, right from the start, we've been having to do a lot of induction training, which people may not realise as a new council. And also as a mayor, I had to go away for 2 days training, actually 3 days, it was 2.5 days. But our roles, they're very important. We may not get remunerated in a huge way, but we definitely hold a responsibility, and we take on these roles because we love our communities and we want to represent you and we want to make things better. And so we're to learn that and to go through these induction programs. A lot of us we all come from a diverse range of backgrounds, and a lot of these things are new for us. And even after doing it over some time, sometimes they even change. And definitely my responsibility in the mayoral role has become quite different and a lot more beholden to a lot more laws now. So that was really interesting. Also in December 2, we have a beautiful Mag Dam reserve in Snake Valley. We've been working really hard on that to bring that committee again together. It's like a lot of committees we have around the Shire. There's a few people that work so hard to look after these areas for the whole community, and I commend that Mag Dam committee again, and there's lots of good things happening this year there. I went to the fantastic Carols in the Valley and even got to sing on stage with a group of people, mind you, but it was lots of fun. And again, a beautiful event that brings people together at the beautiful Carnham Uniting Bluestone Church, which has become a real great hub for the people there. And referring to the CFA, again, thanks. I know I put it in my columns, but we cannot thank all of you. I know there's volunteers in the audience that are part of the CFA as well, but everyone that is part of that, because you've been protecting our community on and off. We've had so many people from our area helping in the Grampians in all sorts of ways, so we thank them greatly. But at the Carols in the Valley, this Snake Valley CFA, they did their bit too, and again, they transported Santa and gave out lollies to the whole community there, and it just shows just how community-minded those people are. So it was incredible. We had a fabulous end-of-year event at Simon's Place, where it was very beautifully looked after there. But it was very significant because it was in that library, and I don't want to get this wrong, that the very first council meeting sort of for the Ripon Shire, am I right in saying that? Ripon Shire was held, Lexington Shire rather, sorry. The Lexington Shire was held in that very library, and we actually tried to sort of restage a bit of a photo there, so we might need to get that on the socials because very significant to be back there in that space. I did attend both at Skipton, the Hospital Health Services AGM. Amazing things there. I don't have time to even talk about some of the great projects they've got there. Things like a garden to help activate the elderly residents who are there to keep them active while they are staying at the hospital, all these fantastic things. Online nursing call, on Nurse Online on call, incredibly important service. If you don't know about it, jump on and find out more about it. I might try to do a blog on my mayoral Facebook page because it is so good for us rural people to be able to access that, particularly if you need something really urgent, you know, and you can't get to a nurse or can't get to emergency straight away and you need that immediate help. It's fantastic. Again, there's been so much strategic planning. We are so excited, but also just so focused on bringing you an incredibly active and strategic council plan that really meets the community needs and puts the community first and foremost. We are just so passionate to be able to do that, and really we'll be looking for as much feedback we can get from community members to know where that needs to go, especially, you know, things on like access roads and everything that's come up tonight, water project, access to water, all that sort of stuff. I was also part of a meeting with Dan Teagan in regards to the housing infrastructure opportunities and grants, and we've already been looking at the Burke Street project, but we'll be pushing that, and also hoping just this week, I know it's been sort of newsworthy, of also we're definitely keen on looking at Avoca too and building there as well. And I've also had our Rural Council Victoria's meetings with them, and we've also met with Catherine King. And again, looking at those federal opportunities, which are different a lot to a lot of the state ones, but Catherine had also highlighted how we have already taken the lead in things like housing and providing that with Correa Park and Burke Street, and how we're actually a council to be looked at to copy, but we were also telling her too we need that support to get that. We talked about the major roads, that even though they only look at the major roads, we also need help with those link roads that gets those trucks and gets our product back out to market and things like that. So that was a very effective meeting. Again, back to Australia Day again, I totally agree. I thought Rowan Martin was someone who had that background, had the experience and really spoke from the heart, and someone who is also maybe not, exactly in the area, but definitely knows the area and has lived here and knows it and lives it and breathes it. So that was really awesome. Particularly though, just to reiterate on the amazing our local people who won those awards, our Alan Streeter, I just can't speak highly enough of someone like him who just gives so much, but everyone, and the Warburg Committee, what an amazing event, and but everyone that was involved, it was just that received awards, it just shows how amazing our Shire is and the people that are in it. So just incredible. Just reiterating on the pool, gosh, it's just having used it so much. I've heard so many comments on it while I've been at the pool as well before we weren't allowed to swim in it, but to see the young kids absolutely going nuts, and my little 1-year-old enjoying it just as much as my 16-year-old, and then seeing my auntie who's but not say her age, but they're helping with that, doing the aerobics and the water aerobics. And she tried to get there every day that they had it on, because for her it was just incredible and became part of her routine. Other friends of mine, teachers at school, lap swimming every day. Like, it was so well used, and an asset that we definitely want to protect and be able to build up. And just echoing what other councillors said there, just incredible. So and also it has been very devastating for people not to be able to use it, and particularly because it's school sports time. But we've definitely tried to help out. We've helped with bus transport for the 2 schools here who would have used it, and they were very grateful and received 2 votes of thanks on that too, just to be able to help them out with that. So I think that's all from me. Councillor Ferrari, you just wanted to add something there too.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take the point that Councillor Toll made a little further in relation to the Brewster Wind Farm. I'm very disappointed as well at the approval of the wind farm by the Minister. And I'm very doubtful. There's some very important issues that were pointed out by the committee, and the residents were given due consideration, and that concerns me greatly. I thank the committee for their dedicated, committed work on this, and there was a lot. This has been going on for a long time, and that committee has put in so many hours that we're aware of, and so many hours that we're unaware of. And they've submitted absolutely flawless submissions, and they took us around in their own time and showed us the actual footprint of the wind farm and where the brolgas are, and that was invaluable, because you can look at it on the map, but to see it firsthand is just, it's invaluable. And I just like to state for the record that as a council we did oppose it, but nonetheless the application was granted by the Minister, which is very disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. But now, of course, we will, our role too, to be able to advocate, to be able to support the community, to make sure the parameters around that are as fair and just as we can possibly get that, as much as we can within our scope of impact. But yeah, do second that as well. So on that, I really want to, I might grab you as soon as I move into closed council, but I really want to thank, you're an amazing gallery and your passion, and everyone watching tonight. Before we will have to move into closed council, but there's been such great input tonight, and I think it shows just what sort of a community we have, and that we get to represent as council. I will ask for a motion to move into closed council, please. Thank you, Councillor Ferrari, Councillor Wardlaw, all those in favour. And we'll see you on the other side of closed council. Thank you all for being here so much. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.